Hello, everyone. Tonight we are walking across a flat stretch of ancient plains that squelch ever so slightly beneath your feet. There's no wind, no birds, no stars, just a dim red glow from the bubbling black pool ahead, as if the earth had cracked its eyelid and was watching you. The tar pit breathes in long, viscous sighs. Bubbles rise slow and perfect, only to collapse with a sound like wet leather snapping. This isn't the kind of place you stumble upon. It's the kind of place that feels like it's been waiting for you specifically. You probably won't survive. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Also, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is right now. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle closer boots, pressing into a strange mix of cool dust and warm sludge. There's an odd sweetness in the air, like fermented fruit and old honey left in a fire pit. The surface of the tar moves like a thick tongue, glossy and dark, catching the glow of the moon above. You realize with a slow tightening of your throat there are no insects here. Nothing chirps. No frogs. Just you and it. Mammoths once gathered around this exact pit. Not by accident, not just to die like some dramatic fossilized trap. They came in groups quietly. Sometimes they stood on the rim for hours. Other times they circled. You crouch and touch the hardened crust where one of their enormous feet must have pressed down long ago. The imprint has warped over time like a fossil trying to forget. The first recorded human myths about these pits go back nearly 40,000 years. In some oral traditions preserved miraculously in fragments, these bubbling places were described as the breath holes of the old beasts. Not mammoths, mind you. Older things. Things that breathed only once every 100 winters. Historians still debate whether these stories are metaphor memory or something far less comfortable. You squat beside the largest bubble, watching it stretch like wet glass. It reflects your face, but not your eyes, just holes. Then it pops and a hiss of steam kisses your nose with a heat that shouldn't be coming from the ground. Not here, not now. There are records, some carved, others painted, of early human tribes who lit fires beside the tar pits and stayed there through the seasons. They drew spirals, circles within circles, mammoth herds etched into sandstone with their trunks reaching toward these bubbling voids like they were trying to listen. Some archaeologists suggest the bubbling sound triggered a sort of trance. The pitch is low but not random. It cycles. You can almost hum along. And hey, did you know modern tar pits are still swallowing things? There's one in California where a raccoon sank last year. Not exactly a mammoth, but still a nice reminder that the earth hasn't retired its appetite. The temperature here isn't right. It's cooler than it should be, and yet your skin prickles like you've been standing too close to a fire for too long. Somewhere behind you, something shifts. You turn. Nothing. Just a smear of stone, maybe an old rib cage in silhouette depending on how generous the moon's feeling tonight. You pace around the pit. The rim is hard but slippery, almost like old wax. Deep inside, you hear a gurgle. One that doesn't match the rhythm of the surface bubbles. It's deeper. Slower, like a yawn underwater. There's a mammoth skull here, half sunken, turned slightly sideways. Its eyes, long eroded, point at the sky like it's trying to recall the constellations. You sit beside it without planning to. The bones radiate a kind of dry cold. Not threatening, not inviting either. Just aware. Beneath your hand, you notice a shallow groove in the rock. Not natural. Something scratched it over and over, maybe with stone, maybe with tusk. The repetition is tight obsessive, like a prayer too old for translation. You press your ear close to the ground. Idiotic move, right? But hey, you're here for the full experience. The tar has a voice, not words, not exactly. More like memory filtered through heat and pressure. It hums, not through sound but through your bones. It's like the echo of a stampede that never ends. One odd fact before we wrap: some geologists believe these tar pits are connected to extinct fault lines like the leftovers of geological organs. So if it feels alive, maybe that's because it was. You rise slowly, brushing off the dirt that somehow smells like cinnamon and rust. Your hands are slick. You didn't touch the tar, and yet, you really didn't, right? The bubble forms again right where you started. Bigger this time, slower, as if it recognizes you. You wait near the rim as the light dips into its darker mood, sinking behind the jagged hills like a shy beast. The night opens up, and with it the air thickens. It's cooler now, but not in a refreshing way. It's the kind of cold that makes your bones ask questions they don't want answers to. The mammoths are here. You can't see them, not clearly, but they make themselves known in the rhythm of the night. A soft grunt here, a trunk's drag there. One exhales through its throat, and it sounds like wind funneling through a wet cave. You lie flat on your stomach, half buried in a blanket of old grass and crushed moss, and watch. There's a massive bull closest to you, his tusks warped with age, one chipped like a broken crescent moon. He doesn't graze, doesn't move, just stands at the edge of the tar, with his head lowered slightly, ears out still, as if listening. To what you're not sure. Maybe to the pit, maybe to himself. You know how sometimes when you're too quiet for too long, your thoughts start echoing. That, a younger female circles slowly behind him, her back brushed with mud and dried grass like some overcomplicated ritual. She steps gingerly, careful not to wake the ground. She knows it's not asleep, it's pretending. Every few minutes, one of the mammoths will lift its trunk high and hold it there, breathing in slow through those great nostrils, the way a bloodhound would if the air was heavy with memory. They do not trumpet. They do not challenge one another. They are gathered, not social. You blink and realize they're arranged in a crescent around the pit. Not random. A crescent like a reversed shadow of the moon above them. The bulls on the outer arcs. The calves kept behind, sheltered but not hidden. You count 12 mammoths total, though there may be more in the dark behind you. The moon catches in their eyes, and you swear for a second one of them looks directly at you. Historians still debate whether these gatherings were migratory pauses or intentional rituals. One theory suggests the bubbling pits emitted mineral-rich vapors that had minor hallucinogenic effects. Another, more poetic camp argues the mammoths recognized the pits as some kind of memory well, where echoes of their ancestors lingered. You shift slowly. The grass here smells of damp parchment and pepper. Strange. You feel something small and soft brush your ankle, but when you glance down, nothing. Probably just nerves, or prehistoric mice. If those were ever a thing. The tar bubbles again, louder this time, and one of the older calves startles. Its mother touches her trunk to its side, once, then again, calmed. Still, the moment passes like a shiver in a room full of sleeping people. The night deepens. A low mist begins to roll over the field, settling in like an old blanket. It doesn't obscure the mammoths. It outlines them, gives them edges. Now, they look like sculptures carved from smoke. You hold your breath, listening for any hint of the world you came from. Planes overhead, insects buzzing, plastic wrappers caught in the wind. Nothing. Just the mammals, the mist, and that softly boiling hole in the earth. You glance upward. The moon has split slightly. Not in reality, but in reflection from a massive bubble stretching on the tar's surface. It's wide enough to hold a reflection of the entire night sky minus you. You don't appear in it. There's a sudden rustle off to the side, a dry crack like old leather snapping in cold air. You turn. Another mammoth is arriving, this one late. Thin, older, her ribs faintly visible through the loose drape of her fur. The others part to let her through, and she moves to the very center of the crescent alone. She raises her trunk skyward and then plunges it downward into the tar. The surface folds around her trunk like it's swallowing time. She holds it there, still as bone. You don't know how long it stays, 10 seconds, a minute. It feels like a whole year and then she withdraws it. Her trunk is clean, not a drip on it. The tar doesn't mark those it accepts. One weird fact. There's a theory that mammoths could detect seismic vibrations better than most animals, almost like they heard earthquakes before they happened. Some believe the pits emitted frequencies not perceptible to humans, but soothing, maybe even addictive, to mammoths. You lie back now, no longer watching so much as participating, a silent audience to something that doesn't ask for applause. The mist curls under your arms, cool and damp. You feel like you're sinking even though you haven't moved. Gravity here doesn't just pull, it remembers. One of the bulls shifts and the ground answers with a bass-heavy hum, like a didgeridoo filtered through lava. You blink. For a split second you see something beneath the tar. Not a shape, not a creature, just a shift. A suggestion of something old and large rolling in sleep. There's no breeze. And yet the mammoths all turn their heads slightly west like they've heard a whisper across the tundra. You hear nothing, which is somehow worse. Eventually, the youngest calf steps forward close to the tar, close enough that you hold your breath. But it does not step in. It just lowers its head and sighs. The tar sighs back. You sit up slowly because sitting up too quickly here feels like you're interrupting something. The tar pit still simmers, though now its bubbles rise slower as if lulled by the silence. The mist has thickened and you're not entirely sure where your legs are anymore. Everything below your knees feels gently dissolved like you've stepped into a memory someone else is dreaming. Your breath clouds the air. Not from cold exactly, but from the weird in-between warmth that hovers near the tar like a fever that never breaks. You shift your weight and realize you're sweating under your arms and at the base of your spine. The air shouldn't be this thick. It's like trying to breathe through soup. A low groan rolls up from the pit. Not a bubble this time, not gas, not even tar. It's something deeper, a resonance, like a cello string vibrating under the world's crust. The mammoths respond. One by one they begin to hum not loudly, but in that barely there infrasonic tone that you don't so much hear as feel in your teeth. Then something changes. The air bends. Colors slide in directions they shouldn't. Reds growing out of blacks. A pulse of violet moving sideways across the pit like someone painted with heat. Your eyes water. Or maybe your brain just refuses to interpret what's happening. The tar lets out another breath, this one sweet. Sweet like honey wine, like rotting plums, like something that wants to be tasted but shouldn't be. You lie back down because standing feels impossible now. The edges of your vision ripple. Not like fainting, more like hallucinating. Historians still debate whether mammoths were ever deliberately exposed to the pit's vapors by early humans. Some suggest Neolithic tribes observed this exact behavior, mammoths gathering, becoming docile, and wondered if they could replicate the effects. There are crude pictographs that show mammoth outlines beside stone bowl fires and smoke trails. Most dismiss these as symbolic. You're not so sure anymore. Your fingers twitch. You close your eyes. Big mistake. With eyes saw shut, the sounds become clearer. The groans of the tar, the low, steady hum of the herd, the click of bone or tusk tapping stone. A rhythmic beat like something walking very slowly, very far beneath you. And then voices. Not words exactly, just tones. Cadences, as if memory had learned how to sing. You open your eyes. The sky is still dark, but it's got depth now, layers of stars you swear weren't there before. The mammoths are no longer moving. They've entered that strange standing sleep of theirs where their trunks hang loose and their eyes half close but don't fully shut. A kind of half-sleep. And so do you. Because honestly, why not? You drift somewhere just outside yourself. You feel the grass beneath your ribs, the pulse in your neck, but you also feel something else, something warm and sticky seeping through the souls of your thoughts. A molasses of sensation. In this place, images come not like memories, but like impressions pressed into clay. You see an ocean of tar, but not this one, a wider one stretching past any horizon. On it, mammoths walk, not sinking. The tar accepts their feet but doesn't resist them. In fact, it supports them like a skin stretched over endless breath. Their eyes glow amber. Their tusks curve inward as if listening to the earth's belly. Then you fall back into yourself, back into the weight of your arms, your damp collar, your chapped lips. You sit up again, choking slightly on nothing. One odd fact: there are modern accounts of animals, including elephants, that will return to places where others of their kind have died. It's not just memory, it's something else. A physical pull, a gravitational empathy. Something older than logic. You crawl closer to the rim because your legs are still unsure whether they're involved. The tar bubbles again, and this time the smell is unmistakable: pine resin and burnt hair. It hits you in the teeth. You flinch. The closest mammoth twitches one ear and snorts. Not at you, at the tar. And that's when you see it, a flash of fur inside the bubble. Brown, curled, and still. It pops and it's gone. Just a hallucination. Maybe. You try to laugh, but your throat sticks. Across the pit, the oldest female lifts one foot and sets it down again very deliberately. The others shift slightly in response, like dancers who know their next cue is close. You brace yourself for something: stampede, collapse, fireworks, anything, but nothing happens. They just stand there, swaying gently. The tar starts singing. No, seriously. It's not musical, not in the way a flute is musical. But the pitch changes in long, slow waves. High, low, sharp, flat. Somewhere between throat singing and wind chimes, if the wind was heavy and didn't like you much. You watch the reflections twist on the surface. One of them doesn't match the mammoth's. It looks like you, but older. Eyes gone. Just the mouth moving, like it's still trying to say something. You turn away too fast and everything spins. The stars above you blink out one by one, then flicker back in, except one which moves. A meteor. A plane numb. It pulses and stops above the tar, faintly glowing orange. You stare until your vision vibrates. One of the calves lies down now. It rests its head on the cool earth beside the pit and exhales once long and low. Like a sigh, like it's had enough. You understand. You do the same. The calf doesn't sleep so much as dissolve into the dark. Its eyes remain half open, tracing the mist as it curls around the rim like lazy smoke rings. You watch it breathe slow, even like a metronome that forgot how to count. Around it, the others adjust almost imperceptibly. One steps back, two shift inward. You blink and realize the circle is closed just a little tighter. You're still lying flat, cheek pressed into moss that smells faintly of licorice and sun-warmed hide. Your fingers are sticky. You haven't touched anything, but the tar has a way of clinging without contact. It's a mood more than a material. You rise to your knees. Slowly, slowly. No sudden moves here, every shadow watches. That calf, the one curled near the pit, is familiar. You've seen it before, not just tonight. You try to remember. Yes, the orphan. You saw it circling 3 nights ago. Same ragged ear, same dark streak down its flank. It moves like it's always just about to step in, but never quite does. Like the tar promised it something a long time ago, and it's still waiting for the delivery. There's something wrong with its trunk, slightly crooked, like it healed around a fracture. Or maybe it was born that way. It lifts the tip now and traces the air in slow loops, drawing circles no one else can see. Historians have cataloged ancient cave paintings showing solitary mammoths at the edge of black voids. Some call them pits, others call them mouths of the underhide. One controversial theory suggests these mammals returned repeatedly to specific sites where family members had disappeared. And yes, disappeared is the word. Not died, not hunted, just gone. You know now that this calf is reenacting something older than its bones. This isn't its first trip, maybe not even its 5th. You whisper aloud, not to the calf, not to the pit, but just to release the pressure in your chest. She's back, The wind doesn't pick up, but something shifts in the air. The scent, the stillness. That feeling you get when a song ends in another room. The calf steps forward again, 1 foot closer to the edge. Its mother doesn't stop it. That might be the most unsettling part. She just watches, eyes unreadable, trunk still. One odd fact: elephants today are known to perform vigils over the bones of their kin. They stroke skulls, carry tusks, stand motionless for hours. Even years later, they return to the same places alone. Some scientists call it mourning. Others say it's just pattern seeking. But you can't watch this calf and believe it's random. The tar bubbles again. This one is slow, big, deliberate. It doesn't pop, it deflates like a breath held too long, finally released. And from inside, a ripple. Not a sound, not a shape. Just a shift in color, like bruised amber stretching into itself. The calf flinches but doesn't retreat. It stretches its trunk forward and taps the surface once. You lean forward, heart in your throat, and that's when the smell hits again, stronger this time, like wood smoke and molasses and something iron-rich. Your tongue feels too big for your mouth. You brace yourself with one hand in the grass and realize it's not grass anymore. It's slick like tar, but cold. A lie wearing a memory. The calf doesn't step in. Of course it doesn't. It circles again clockwise. Always clockwise. Orphos. A worn groove begins to form in the soil. The other mammoths watch. No one moves. The moonlight shifts. Not the moon, just the light. It elongates, catches on the calf's back like spotlight from the gods. You don't believe in gods. You might now. You look up and realize the clouds have cleared, revealing more stars than you've ever seen. But they're all wrong, slightly misaligned. You spot Orion, but his belt sags. The Big Dipper has an extra scoop. Nothing fits. One theory, whispered, barely accepted, is that tar pits store atmospheric memory. That their gases preserve echoes not just of light and sound, but time. One researcher called them the Earth's melted clocks. She wasn't invited back. You crawl closer, maybe 8 feet from the calf now. It stops watching you. You freeze. The stare lasts forever. Then it looks away. Accepts you. Or maybe dismisses you. Hard to say. It steps back, leaving a perfect print in the tar-damp soil. One you're certain will still be here when every word you've ever spoken has faded. The kind of print that tells future creatures someone stood here. Someone hesitated. Someone remembered. You glance down at your own handprint in the moss. It's darker now. Longer. Like your fingers stretched while you weren't paying attention. You hear a sound. Click, click, click. Not from the tar, from behind you. You turn and the mammoths are doing it again. That slow, deliberate tapping. Front toes pressing gently into stone or dirt. Not quite in unison, not quite out of it either. It's not a signal. It's a language, a pulse, a memory looped. And always, always that orphan walks. Never touching, never quitting. You get it now. It's not circling the pit. It's circling a question. The fog thickens just enough to blur the calf, then clears again, as if unsure whether to hide or reveal. The orphan is still walking, carving its path into the mud. And each step feels quieter than the one before, like the sound is getting swallowed backward in time. You shuffle sideways, not toward the calf, but toward the place where those strange birds landed earlier. Remember them? The ones you couldn't quite identify, feathered in dusky silver. Their calls like strings being pulled too tight. You spot one again, now perched on a stone just beyond the tar. It doesn't seem to care that mammoths are nearby. Or maybe that's the point, maybe it's only here because of them. The bird tilts its head once, twice, like it's mimicking you. Then it opens its beak, and no sound comes out. Instead, 3 more birds descend from the mist, not flying, dropping, like leaves. No wing beats, no urgency. They just drift down land and go still. Historians argue over the meanings of these kinds of sightings in ancient contexts. Some believe these ghost birds were seen as omens or messengers from wherever the tar was believed to lead. There's one cave in northern Europe that contains a painting of birds with forked eyes and backward wing sitting beside a circle of mammoths. Some say it's shamanic. Others say it's nonsense. The debate goes nowhere because the cave collapsed in 1947. You scoot closer to one of the birds. It stares at you with an eye that doesn't reflect light. It doesn't blink. Its chest doesn't rise. You're not sure it's even breathing. Then it moves so fast it doesn't seem to animate, just shift location. And it's now perched right at the tar's edge. The orphan stops circling, just stops. As if the bird pressed a button in the air. The calf raises its head, trunk curling upward, nostrils flaring. It doesn't trumpet, it inhales. The others in the herd respond again with their infrasonic murmur. You feel it low in your spine. It's not just noise, it's intention. Something being spoken, but not in a language you've earned the right to hear. You edge a little closer to the tar yourself, nearly shoulder to shoulder with the watching bird now. From this angle, the surface of the pit looks like it's tilted slightly, not physically but perceptually. Like the reflections no longer match gravity. Trees lean in the wrong direction. The sky bends too tightly. Even your own shape is stretched out like taffy. One odd fact in the La Brea pits, hundreds of bird fossils have been recovered, more than most other creatures. Which is strange considering birds can fly. Some researchers believe these birds weren't trapped but drawn. That they landed willingly repeatedly even after seeing others vanish. The fog brightens for a moment, yes, brightens, as if something underneath is glowing. Just a shimmer like light beneath ice. The birds begin to call, finally, not loud. A soft, syncopated clicking, like pebbles dropped into glass bowls. It syncs with the tapping of the mammoth's feet. Somehow you know this isn't music, it's counting. The birds are keeping track. Of what? The calf steps forward again. But this time its foot lands on the rim of the pit. Not in it, just on the edge. A wave moves through the herd. No sound, no visible motion. Just a shift, as if they all exhale together. The calf stops, waits. Its ears tremble. You lean forward, too far. The moss under your hand gives way to slick stone, and suddenly your palm is inches from the tar. It smells like leather soaked in sugar and motor oil, if motor oil had been invented 40,000 years ago. The orphan lifts its foot again, hovers. It's going to step in. It doesn't. It closes its eyes, lets the foot fall back into the dirt. The birds go silent. The mammoths do not move. You lean back slowly, breath rattling like dry leaves in your lungs. The calf begins to circle again. Same direction, same step, same groove. You realize that groove has been there longer than tonight. The earth remembers that walk, probably better than the calf does. You whisper, "What are you waiting for?" The calf flicks an ear, almost hears you, almost responds. You know what it's waiting for, you don't want to admit it. It's waiting for someone, something, or maybe a sign. The birds begin to leave. Again, not flying, just lifting. Weightless, soundless, disappearing into the fog above, like threads being unspooled from the world. You count them 1, 2, 3, 5. Wait, 5? There were only 4. You glance to your side. The bird that was beside you is gone. But there's a feather in the moss where it stood. It's warm and faintly pulsing. You hold the feather in your hand. It's not slick or oily like you expected. It's dry, brittle at the ends, and oddly warm. Not the kind of warm that comes from the sun or your own body heat, but something more internal, like it remembers being alive. It pulses faintly against your palm. One beat every few seconds. Slow, steady, like a lullaby written in flesh. You sit cross-legged now, knees damp from the mossy dirt, and you realize you're not cold anymore. Not warm either. Just disconnected from the temperature, like your body is inside but your awareness has stepped out for a walk. The tar begins to gurgle again. No bubble this time, just sound. A deep, slow thud like the earth clearing its throat underwater. You feel it more than hear it. That's becoming a theme, isn't it? And then there it is. The sound that doesn't belong. You turn your head, slowly, carefully. Thud. It comes again? From underground? From far, far below, you place your palm to the ground, feather still clutched in your fingers. The earth responds like a held breath, trembling, a live patient. Another thud. Closer now. Historians still debate whether early humans recognized this kind of seismic resonance. Some say it was just thunder. Others believe our ancestors listened differently, understood what it meant when the ground made noises it wasn't supposed to. You're starting to side with the latter. The mammoths stop their movement. The orphan pauses its loop. Every eye, every enormous, unblinking mammoth eye turns toward the pit. The tar shivers. No, seriously. It shivers. Not like a splash or ripple. The entire surface vibrates just once like something massive shifted in its sleep underneath. Then stillness. You remember a phrase someone once told you, probably in a half-forgotten podcast. Not all extinct things are gone. Some are just resting in the wrong direction. The feather pulses again. You look up and realize the stars have gone completely still. Like too still. No twinkle, no movement. Like someone paused the sky. Another thud. This one feels closer. You try to count the seconds between pulses, but there's no pattern. No beat. It's like a conversation being had through layers of time and mud. One odd fact: mammoths had incredibly sensitive feet filled with pressure-detecting cells that could read the tremors of distant footsteps. Elephants still have this gift. They can hear storms days before they arrive. Or footsteps, or something worse. The orphan calf lifts one foot, then slowly lowers it. Not in rhythm with the thuds against it. Like a challenge, the tar responds with another pulse, but not from within. This one comes from above. A gust of wind, cold and hard. It whips through the field without warning. The grass doesn't bend. The mammoths don't react. Only you feel it. The wind smells like wet iron and mint. You exhale sharply and see your breath again, even though the air still doesn't feel cold. The feather in your hand turns black for a moment. Just a flicker, like it's absorbing the tremor, reacting to the pressure. Then it fades back to brown. The calf begins walking again. Not circling. Forward. Toward the tar. You start to rise instinctively, but one of the mammoths makes a low sound. A warning. Not hostile, just final. Like, sit down, little one, you're not built for what comes next. So you do. The calf reaches the edge. The real edge, this time. Its foot hovers over the shimmering surface. You can see its reflection blurred, stretched, like it's being watched by something inside the pit. And then it stops. Again. Head high, ears out, frozen like a statue mid-thought. The thud returns. This time it's not underground. It's under you? Your stomach drops. You scramble backward, expecting the ground to crack, to swallow, to open. But it doesn't. It just feels like standing on the chest of something enormous, something that just took its first breath in centuries. One theory, unpopular of course, is that some tar pits are connected to ancient cave systems long since collapsed. But a handful of explorers believe the tar isn't a surface pool at all. It's a lid. Over something hollow. Over something waiting. The calf turns around, walks away from the pit, just like that. The mammoths shift, relaxing. A few even step forward to greet the orphan, touch trunks, nudge shoulders, as if to say, you ask the question. The answer can wait. The thudding stops. The stars twinkle again. The feather in your hand pulses once, then turns cold. And then you hear it. One single wordless moan from the pit itself. Not loud, not angry, just lonely. You stay sitting longer than you realize, legs numb and folded. Wrung, the feather cooling in your hand like a stone from someone else's pocket. Around you, the mammoths are stirring again, but slower now, as if a long vigil has ended. One by one, they turn from the pit, backs to the black, no longer watchful, no longer tense. But your eyes linger. There, on the opposite rim, a ridge of bone juts from the tar like a question mark made of time. You half crawl toward it, drawn not by curiosity but by a strange sense of responsibility, like you're the only one left who still remembers what happened here tonight. The bones don't belong to any living thing. Not anymore. Their gray porous, weathered yet upright, stuck vertically in the tar as if the creature had tried to leave but got caught mid-rise, spine first. You count 3 vertebrae, then 6, then more all still fused. Whatever it was, it died standing up. Or worse, was held that way. Your breath catches. There to the left of the spine, barely peeking above the surface, is a curved ridge. A skull. A shoulder blade. A tusk. No. It's too flat, too deliberate. You recognize it now. It's a femur, and it's not fossilized. Not fully. You crouch closer. The air smells like burnt sugar and old rain. The tar laps gently at the exposed bones, not pulling them under, just holding them. You wonder, how many others are preserved like this, stuck in place mid-motion, forever unfinished? Historians have found mammoth bones upright in some pits, especially in Siberia and Alberta. Some posed strangely, as if they hadn't simply fallen in, but remained in place for reasons no one could explain. One theory suggests the tar's high viscosity slowed decomposition so drastically that even death was frozen in posture. Another theory, more superstitious, is that the earth sometimes refuses to let go. You reach out. Not to touch, just to see. Your fingers hover above the femur. It pulses, not really, but enough to make you yank your hand back. Behind you, a soft thump. You turn. The orphan calf is back, alone. It approaches the bones slowly, stops beside you. You expect fear, maybe hesitation. But no. It lowers its head and gently nudges one of the exposed ridges. The bone shifts slightly as if saying, "I'm still here." The calf hums a low sound, just barely audible. It echoes once across the pit and somewhere deep inside the tar bubbles. A quiet reply. You step aside. This moment isn't yours. The calf begins to walk around the bones in a slow, deliberate circle. Not like earlier. This is a different orbit. Not about hesitation. Not about questions. This is a dance. Mourning. Honoring. You see now that the tar doesn't just trap. It preserves. Holds. Witnesses. One odd fact: scientists once found a mammoth with food still in its mouth. Grass. Flowers. Perfectly preserved. The animal had been alive 1 second, frozen the next. As if something had decided this moment matters. Let's keep it. The calf stops its circle and steps forward, placing one foot gently against the bone's base. It lingers, trunk, swaying. You can almost feel its thoughts, slow, deep, full of weight. It's not looking for someone to return. It's saying goodbye. The herd is quiet now. Not distant, not ignoring, just waiting, like they understand some memories must be carried out alone. You glance down. The feather is gone. Not dropped, not blown away. Gone. In its place is a small smear of gray ash in your palm. You close your fist around it instinctively. The calf lifts its head, gives one last low note into the tar's breath, and turns back toward its kin. As it walks away, you see something caught in its fur. A bit of hardened pitch clinging to its flank, glistening faintly in the moonlight. Like a badge. Like the pit touched it and chose not to keep it. You move closer to the exposed bones now, carefully stepping around the edges. You sit again, back to the herd, knees tucked. You don't say anything, but the bones do. You hear it faintly. A whisper beneath the tar. Not words, just emotion. Old and tired. A kind of ache. The kind that doesn't want to be healed, only remembered. The tar shifts again softly, not a bubble, a sigh. You sit there until the herd leaves. Not all at once. They go one by one, peeling away from the rim like fog lifting from water. The orphan is the last. It turns once before disappearing into the dark, and for a second you're sure it sees you. You don't wave. You just stay. Because some bones need company. You're alone now. The tar pit no longer gurgles. The bubbles have ceased, the surface smooth and glassy, reflecting a crooked constellation map that belongs to no sky you've ever seen. You trace one of the patterns with your eyes, 7 dots forming a hook, the 8th trailing off in a blur. Maybe it's a mammoth version of Orion. Maybe it's nothing, but it's there, and it wasn't before. You rise and stretch, joints cracking like brittle twigs. The smell lingers: charred cinnamon, wet ash, and something else: berries. Overripe, almost fermented. The scent wafts up from the pit like bait. It pulls at something deep in your hindbrain, some glimmer of fruit and feast and gathering. You step back involuntarily, unsure whether you're resisting it or being polite. Because whatever's under there is listening. The bones beside you hum. Not loudly, just a sympathetic vibration, as if acknowledging your movement. You crouch beside them again, but this time your eye catches something new. A thin curve of stone set just beyond the edge of the pit. You brush aside the moss and reveal a tool, a stone blade chipped thin, hafted long ago. It's not buried deep. Someone placed it here on purpose, and you're not the first to find it. Historians catalog similar discoveries near ancient tar sites. Tools carefully laid out near skeletal remains, often in pairs or spiral formations. Some dismiss them as failed rescue attempts. Others believe they were offerings, gifts to the tar, or perhaps to the fallen. You lift the tool gently. Its light balanced cold despite the warm ground. It hums faintly too, not a sound you can hear, more like something that catches behind your ear and won't leave. You imagine a human kneeling here thousands of years ago holding this same blade. Maybe their child had vanished into the pit. Maybe a mammoth a companion. Maybe they thought the earth wanted payment or forgiveness. And you feel the scent again, stronger now. Not just berries, burnt hair, like a campfire built too close to skin. That's when you understand. The tar doesn't just pull things in with weight, it calls them with scent. One peculiar study, barely mentioned in archaeological circles, recorded elevated olfactory responses in certain mammals near hydrocarbon seeps. The theory was that gas composition could mimic pheromones, even trigger memories. You think about the calf, the loop, the hesitation. The tar smells like something it misses. You stand and move closer to the edge, just a step. You don't plan to touch it, of course not, but your eyes lock onto the glimmer of something just below the surface, something small, round. You crouch. It's a tusk tip, not full-grown, polished, maybe carved. The spiral grain of it catches moonlight like ivory soaked in ink. Then the surface shivers and it's gone. Sucked back into the black like a breath being re-inhaled. You blink. Did it move or did you? Your mind isn't reliable right now. The air near the pit buzzes softly, like ozone or bees. But there are no bees here. No insects at all. You remember noticing that earlier. Remember, there's another scent now. This one's sharper, like cloves and scorched teeth. It roots you to the ground. You kneel automatically. Your legs bend without permission. Your eyes sting, water forming at the corners. Not from smoke, from the sheer force of memory washing over you. Memory that isn't yours. You see mammoths, hundreds of them, gathered around the pit, not at night but in daylight. The sky is orange. Dust swirls in cyclones behind them. Some wear mud on their backs in patterns. Spiral shapes, dots, trunk-length marks like tally lines. And one is standing in the center of the circle. Alone, tall, still. You realize it's dying, but not struggling. It's offering itself. You open your eyes with a start. You're back at the rim. The wind is moving now, lightly brushing your cheek like a sigh. And the tar speaks again. A sound this time low, whistling, musical. Almost pleasant. You step back. Historians still debate whether ancient animals perceived sacrifice, whether they understood mortality at a symbolic level, but you've seen enough to know the debate doesn't matter. The orphan calf knew, the herd knew, and the tar pus, it remembers. You take one more breath. It tastes like rust and pine, and then something moves behind you. You turn fast, too fast. You slip, catching yourself just before your palm touches the tar. The movement isn't from a mammoth. It's a shape. A bird. No, not one of the silver ones. This one is featherless, small, a rat. It skitters across the ridge, eyes glowing faintly yellow in the moonlight. Then it freezes, looks at you. You feel a wave of heat, recognition. Something stirs inside you, primitive and unwanted. The creature dives into the tar. Gone. Not a splash, not a sound, just gone. And the tar hisses like a secret. You don't chase it. Whatever that was, the bird, the rat, the leftover piece of time, you let it go. The tar has rules, and one of them is don't chase what disappears. You sit down again, this time on the solid stone ridge that curves like a spine above the rim. It's smoother than it should be. Worn not by water or wind, but by presence. Like something's been sitting here a very long time watching the same slow bubble show you've just joined. The smell returns. Heavy, insistent. This one's different, sweet, cloying, like overripe blackberries left too long on a windowsill. You almost taste it, a syrupy film on the back of your tongue, and beneath it, burnt feathers. It should be disgusting, but you feel yourself leaning into it. The scent of memory, the oldest trick in the tar's playbook. You remember now the orphan calf wasn't the only one circling. It was you. That other night weeks ago, or maybe a year, you stood at another pit. Not this one, a smaller one. You watched birds spiral in above. It heard the same faint hum in your jaw. But you told yourself it was wind, or hunger. You'd walked away. You didn't this time. Your eyes drift shut for a second, and in the dark behind your lids you see a fire. Not real painted. On cave walls. Flames drawn with ochre licking upward toward an upside-down mammoth. Beneath it a pit, and humans dancing around it with branches held upside-down, smoke spiraling from their hands. You blink. You're still on the ridge, but your hands now smell like charcoal. Your palms are blackened like you handled something burned without noticing. One theory nearly forgotten now suggested that early humans used tar pits not just as traps or sources of fuel, but as messages. The smell carried miles, a signal, a warning, or maybe an invitation. Historians still debate whether the early tribes believed the pits to be entrances or exits. You stand slowly and walk the rim clockwise. You find yourself humming, not intentionally, a three-note rhythm. It matches the bubbling, which has resumed again, soft now, measured, like the pit is listening. Then you see it, at the far end of the rim past the last shadow of tusk and bone, a small pile of stones. At first glance random, but as you draw closer you see the pattern. Not quite a spiral, more of a trail. Each stone leads into the next, bending gently toward the edge. You kneel beside the last one. It's hot. You jerk your hand back. Not warm hot, like it's just come out of a fire. But the night is cool and there's no smoke. You touch it again. This time it hums. You look behind you. No one. But then a sound reaches you. A sound that doesn't belong to air. A whisper. Spoken but not voiced. It comes from the pit's direction. You walk slowly, following the stones until you're close enough to hear it properly. It's laughter. Light. Almost kind. Like children telling stories in the dark. Then silence. Then a scent rain on fur. Wet mammoth hair. Not metaphorically. Exactly that. You grip the hot stone. It feels like an anchor. From the corner of your eye, something ripples across the surface of the pit, not on top of it, but just beneath. Like a shadow remembering how to move. You step back instinctively. But you don't run. Instead, you squat down and watch. The ripple grows, forming an oval. No bubble, just motion. A shape begins to rise round at first, then sharper. A tusk. A horn. It breaks the surface and hovers. A mammoth tusk, but not attached to anything. Perfectly clean, polished, bone white. It floats for one breath, then it slides back under, leaving no mark, no wake, no ripple. As if it had been a dream the tar wanted you to borrow. You stand again, arms tingling with cold, though the wind hasn't moved. One odd fact: in a few rare cases, tusks have been found perfectly preserved in pits without any trace of the rest of the body. Some theorize the animal was scavenged, Others suggest it broke free on its own, but some say the tusks were given. Gifts. Reminders. You whisper something now just to see what happens. I saw you. And the tar answers. Just once. A single bubble rises slow and steady and pops with the faint sound of someone breathing out through their nose. The smell returns. Pine, ash, fir. You smile, or try to. Because now you know the tar doesn't trap memory. It shares it, and it's your turn to remember. You don't sit down this time. You stay standing as if sitting would somehow surrender your edges to the mist. The air is still dense with the sweetness of the tar's lure, but now it smells older, like wilted flowers sealed in smoke. There's a tension to it, like the taste of thunder just before it hits. The moonlight brightens, or maybe the clouds pull away. Either way, the stones at your feet cast shadows, now long deliberate like runes, scribbled in an unknown grammar. You follow their trail-back eyes, adjusting to the dim pulses of light that come not from the moon, but from the tar itself. Yes, it glows, faintly, like dying coals. Then your foot catches something. You freeze, look down. It's a circle of stones, thin, flat, sharp-edged, arranged deliberately around a depression in the earth. Not a pit, a bowl, but not made by erosion. You kneel beside it and brush away the soft cover of dust, and there, half embedded in the edge of the stone ring, is a tool. No, several tools. Stone knives chipped into leaf shapes. Fragments of obsidian, dark and sharp as forgotten thoughts. A broken pendant made of mammoth ivory, still strung with sinew, still looped through a finger-sized knot of petrified fiber. This isn't trash. It's an offering. You don't touch them, not this time. Not here. These aren't yours. Historians have long cataloged circular arrangements of tools and bone near prehistoric tar sites. Some call them ritual caches. Others say they're accidental abandoned during hurried migration or panicked retreat. But the symmetry here, the deliberate placement, that's no accident. That's memory carved into the ground. You stand again and move farther along the rim. That's when you see it faintly glinting in the hardened outer layer of tar, a small square stone half swallowed by pitch. You crouch beside it and look closer. It's not natural. It's carved. A perfect square notched with radial lines, 12 of them, like a sun or a clock. You press your palm flat against the surface near it and the tar vibrates. Not a threat, just a murmur. You whisper again. Was this yours? The tar doesn't respond, but a bird does. Not one of the pale ones from earlier. This one is black, matte, silent. It perches on a stone across the pit, barely visible against the dark. You only notice it because its eyes glow not like light, but like heat. A memory of fire behind a gaze. It lifts. One foot adjusts slightly, and the entire tar pit sighs. A soft ripple pushes outward like breath beneath glass. You blink, and you see them, in the tar. Hands. Not human, not mammoth, not any species you know. Just hands, hundreds of them flattened beneath the surface. Open-palmed, pressed against the underside like they're holding something up. Or waiting to be pulled through. You stumble backward, not far, just a step. The blackbird doesn't move. The hands vanish. One odd fact near some prehistoric sites, archaeologists have unearthed palm imprints, not painted but pressed. As if the people who stood there simply left their touch behind, wordless and solemn. You walk again, keeping the pit to your right. You count your steps. 17, 18, 19. You stop. There's something embedded in the crust. A jawbone. Too small for a mammoth, too big for a fox. Human, maybe. But the teeth are wrong. Too many, too flat. You crouch beside it. You don't touch it, but you lean in. The bone smells like old books left in a box during rain season. There's something scratched into the surface. 3 lines, crossed. A sigil. A warning. Or maybe just a name. You look up. The sky is darker now. How is that possible? The stars have faded. Clouds. No, something else. It's as if the sky has turned its face away. And that's when the tar speaks again. Not with bubbles, with scent. Pine, charcoal, wet fur, and something sharp. Fear. Not yours. Someone else's. You back away slowly. You turn your head and freeze. There, near the center of the pit, a small object breaks the surface. Slowly. Deliberately. It's a tool. Stone blade. Long. Sharp. Still wrapped in sinew. Still tied to a cracked wooden handle. You recognize it. It's the one from the offering circle. The one you didn't touch. But now it's here. On the surface. In the middle of the tar. Presented. Given. You say nothing. Because sometimes the best response is silence. And in silence, the tar listens. You stare at the blade. It floats impossibly on the tar's surface, blade-down handle angled toward you like a question posed in bone. No splash, no bubble, just the stillness of something that knows it belongs to you even if you didn't ask for it. You step forward once, then twice. The ground here is firmer, as if the tar itself has stiffened in anticipation. You don't reach for the blade. Yet. Instead, you squat near the edge and peer down. The blade doesn't move. It hovers with the patience of a trap or a test. Then your eyes catch something else. To the left of the tool, embedded just beneath the translucent surface, just enough to be seen but not grasped, is a single gleaming tusk. Not curved like a mammoth's. This one is straight, polished, bleached to a shade whiter than anything else in this ancient landscape. It points upward, slanting slightly west, like a sundial that has forgotten its sun. You lean closer, and for a moment, just a blink, you see your own face reflected in the tusk's pale edge. But your mouth is open in the reflection, and your real mouth isn't. The blade shifts, just slightly, toward you, like it's urging you, daring you. You stand again and take 3 slow steps back. The tar makes no sound. The tool remains, waiting. Historians still debate the origin of orphan tusks. Those found upright in tar deposits detached from skulls untouched by scavengers. Some call them remnants of violence, others suggest ritual burial, but a few quietly in footnotes call them directional relics, as if they point not just spatially but temporally. You sit down again on the stone ridge, the blade still visible at the edge of your peripheral vision. You feel watched, but not threatened. You whisper, "I'm not here for you." And the tar answers with stillness. Then, like an afterthought, a small ripple moves across the surface, not from the center but from the far side. You squint through the darkness across the pool. There's something else breaching the tar now. A shape, long, thin, like a tail or a rope. But it's not rising. It's uncoiling. You blink. It's gone. One odd fact: mammoths weren't the only creatures found in tar pits. Snakes, salamanders, and strange elongated vertebrates, some now extinct, have also been recovered. One specimen from Venezuela had vertebrae so oddly arranged that it was dubbed serpent ghost by the excavation team. You glance again at the tusk, still pointing, still clean. You begin to wonder if it's pointing to something beneath you. You sit perfectly still, close your eyes, and press your hand flat to the ground. And there it is, the vibration. Faint but real, not seismic, rhythmic, like breathing. You listen, count, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. It's not your breath, it's not the tar. It's something deeper, alive. Below, you open your eyes and exhale too fast. The blade has drifted half a foot closer to you. The handle is now hovering just past the rim, still not touching, still offering. You reach out not to grab it, just to shadow your hand over it. And you feel heat, not from the blade, from the tar beneath it. Hot, dry, focused. You pull back, but not far. The tusk in the pool shifts slightly, just enough to break the illusion of stillness, just enough to make the reflected sky shimmer. You look up and realize that's not the night sky. Not anymore. Those aren't stars. They're eyes. Hundreds of faint pinpricks blinking at different rhythms, spaced irregularly like distant campfires across a plain you don't remember walking. You rise slowly, carefully, and whisper again, "Not tonight." The blade still floats, the tusk still points. The eyes above begin to dim one by one, not disappearing, just blinking slowly, falling back into their side of the memory. And then silence. So complete that you hear your own heartbeat echo off the rocks. You step away from the rim back to the stone ring where you first found the blade embedded in earth. It's empty now. No blade, no feathers, no ash, just a circle, and your breath in the dark. You're walking now, though you don't remember deciding to. Your feet carry you along the southern edge of the tar pit, where the mist hangs thicker, dampening sound and making every step feel like a muffled apology. You pass the familiar landmarks, flattened stones, broken bones, the imprint of the orphan calf's looping track. All quiet, all waiting. Then you hear it. Not a voice, a hum. Low, long, pulsing from the earth itself. It vibrates through your sternum like a distant engine if engines had ever been invented here. You stop, and the hum stops. You take one step forward and it begins again. A call and response rhythm, not mechanical, biological. Then the strangest thing, you realize it's not a hum at all. It's a song. Not sung, but felt, something so old it doesn't need sound anymore. The pit is singing, or something inside it is. You crouch on one knee. You want to press your ear to the ground, but you don't. Instead, you close your eyes and you let it come through. It's not a tune you know, but it makes your body remember things your mind doesn't. Your chest swells, your fingers twitch, your teeth ache, not with pain, but with something close to grief. You open your eyes and look up. The stars are back, but the sky is wrong again. The constellations have changed. A straight line where Orion's belt should be. A double spiral where the Big Dipper once curled. And in the center of it all, a gap. A space where light should be. A black socket in the sky's face. And from that empty spot, you feel the pressure. The hum strengthens. The tar answers. A bubble slow and large breaks the surface, not with a pop, but with a glide like oil stretching across glass. The mammoths are gone now, long since vanished into the dark, but you swear you can still hear them. Low, deep, reverberating in the tar's voice. You speak aloud without meaning to. I hear you. And the hum changes. It drops in pitch a half step down. The song becomes more than rhythm. It becomes language, not words, but shapes. You see them now, not in the air, but in your mind's eye. Glyphs drawn in charcoal, smeared in blood, etched into ivory. Mammoths with opened mouths. Hands raised, circles of tar, diagrams of sound. The pit is teaching you. And then, from the other side of the pool, you see a figure. Not a mammoth, not a bird, not even an animal. Just a shape. Human-like, tall, but wrong in the joints. One shoulder higher than the other. Its arms hang too long. Its feet are half buried in the pitch. You blink and it's gone. Then it's beside you. Closer than breath. You don't turn your head. Instead, you speak again. I'm not here for you. The air behind your neck grows warm, then cold, then warm again. And then finally, the tar speaks for real. It echoes with a voice that isn't a voice, a pulse that isn't touch. It's the mammoth song, but amplified, reflected back by the shape beside you. A phrase begins to form in your mind, not in language, but in memory. We spoke without mouths. You inhale slowly. One odd fact, mammoths produce sounds so low, humans could only perceive them by their vibration. They didn't roar or trumpet in the dramatic way we imagine. They resonated through the ground across distances beneath storms. You begin to hum. The same three-note rhythm from before, but slower now, with weight. You feel it pass into the tar, and for the first time the surface shifts in recognition, not rejecting, not swallowing, just acknowledging. And then it replies. The shape beside you vanishes, not fled, not destroyed, merged. And from deep within the tar a voice rises, not sound but sense. We are still singing. You fall to your knees. Tears come. You don't know why. You aren't sad. You aren't afraid. You are simply seen. The tar sings again. This time it echoes outward, not into the night, but into the stones, into the bones, into the hollow tooth of that one severed tusk. Every object along the rim begins to vibrate, not shake, resonate. The memory of sound amplified. You hum back, and the blade, the one that had floated to the rim, shifts again. It turns, not toward you, toward the tusk. Then it sinks slowly into the tar. Given back. Accepted. You don't move. The blade is gone, vanished beneath the surface as if it had never been. No ripple. No farewell. Just silence where sound once stood. And in that silence, something ancient listens back. The tar is flat again, impossibly still. You can see your reflection now, dim, ghostly stretched, and beside it dozens of others. Not people, not mammoths, just shapes that carry the weight of memory. You blink and the reflections vanish. You breathe in and the air tastes wrong, too sweet, like boiled fruit left in the sun laced with something metallic. You wipe your mouth even though nothing touched it. Then the ground twitches. Not an earthquake, a tremor of memory. Because it doesn't shake the trees or the pit. It shakes you. You take a step back and your heel strikes something solid. You whirl around. A moth perched on a stone. Its wings are huge, longer than your fingers, and patterned like fractured tusks across parchment. It flutters once, releasing a dust so fine it hangs like smoke in the still air. Then it lifts off. But it doesn't fly away. It flies upward, high, straight, disappearing into the tar-dimmed sky. And just before it vanishes, it glows. A soft blue pulse there and gone. You watch until the blackness swallows it. Then something brushes your ankle. You jerk, look down. Another moth. This one smaller pale clinging to your boot. You crouch. It's dead, but fresh, perfectly intact, like it just arrived from somewhere else. Historians still debate whether tar pits can preserve soft tissue. Most say no, but rare exceptions, a preserved moth wing. A sliver of skin suggests otherwise. Tar doesn't just hold bones, it holds moments. You kneel and hold the tiny creature in your palm. It weighs nothing, but its wings are etched with spirals, not patterns, symbols. You don't recognize them, and yet you remember them. They match the circles carved near the sunstone, earlier the notched square that radiated like a clock. You feel pressure in your forehead behind your eyes, like something is pushing out trying to be seen. You close your hand around the moth and exhale through your nose. Calm, focused, and then the bubble, a single one rising from the center of the tar, far larger than any before. It stretches, warps, fills with milky smoke. Inside, movement, not distinct, but real. You lean forward involuntarily. You see a field, empty, then mammoths, but not your herd. These are younger, sleeker, more colorful, and they are running towards something. Then, gone. The bubble bursts without a sound. The mist returns, but it smells different now. Not fruit, not hair. Rain, real rain. Wet dirt, green grass. The scent of an open field after a storm. You look up. The clouds are returning, not menacing, just full. And above them, faint but unmistakable, a line of mammoths walking through the sky. No wings, just walking. Not ghosts, not memory, just story. One odd fact across Siberia, there are legends of sky-herds mammoths that never died but were lifted into the heavens to escape the coming ice. Children were told that thunder came from their feet striking cloud. You smile without meaning to, because it makes sense now. The tar wasn't a trap. It was a bridge, a way for mammoths to remember their way up. And now it remembers you. You look down. The moth is gone. Your hand is empty, but your palm tingles. A faint spiral is etched into your skin. Not a burn, not a scar. A mark. Given, not taken. The tar shifts again. One last ripple, like the surface is nodding, as if to say, you saw enough. You stay crouched for a while, hands still tingling with the spiral's ghost. It doesn't fade. If anything, it settles deeper, not into skin but into sense. Like a word you've never spoken but always known. You rise. Not fast. The kind of rising done after ceremony. The kind done at the edge of something vast and unrepeatable. You brush your hands together, though there's nothing on them anymore. No dust, no tar. Just the memory of holding something small that carried the weight of ages. The tar pit is darker now, not because night has deepened, but because it has closed. You feel it like curtains being drawn around a stage at the end of a long, strange performance. You step back from the rim, and the stones beneath your feet suddenly feel firmer, realer, like they've been watching to make sure you followed through. The song is gone, but the silence hums. Then something catches your eye in the periphery. Movement. To the west, at the edge of the slope, tall shadows. You freeze. Mammoths. They're back. A new herd, or the same. They stand silent, barely outlined by the rising mist in the fading sky. No trumpeting, no footfalls, just presence. And then you hear it. A single low hum. This time not from the tar, but from them. The herd sings. A deep, harmonious drone that vibrates not only through your body, but through the trees, the rocks, even the bones trapped in the pit. And just like that, the pit begins to hum in return. Call and response. The echo of ancient language. And you're between them. Receiver, conduit, witness. You take one slow breath and realize you're humming too. Not mimicking, matching. The tones fall into you like gravity, like snow, like the part of a story that always returns to the beginning. The herd doesn't move. They simply are. You begin to walk toward them. Not away from the tar, not toward safety, just toward continuity. Toward the shared stillness of those that remember differently. And the strangest thing, they let you. You cross the grass slide crunching under your boots. The first mammoth, an old cow with ridged tusks and a dusted shoulder, turns to face you. Her eyes are dark, unreadable, ancient, beyond time. She steps aside. You walk into their circle. The song continues lower, now softened like bedtime music for stars. You look up. The constellations have corrected themselves, or maybe you have. And then just past the slope behind the herd, you see it. Another tar pit. Smaller. Still. Waiting. But not for you. The calf is there. The orphan. Its loop is complete. It doesn't look back. Because it doesn't need to. It steps forward, not into the pit, but beside it, and kneels in the grass. Not to surrender. To rest. The mammoth herd sings one final note. Long. Slow. Peaceful. Then quiet. One by one they turn from the pit. And begin to walk. Into the distance. Not north. Not south. Not toward anything. Just away from forgetting. You don't follow. You stay behind because your place was never with the herd. It was here. With the memory. The tar is completely still now. No ripple. No shimmer. No hum. It has said all it needed to say. And you whisper one last time. I heard you. And the wind carries it across the pit. It does not echo. Because it was received. You wait long after the herd disappears. Long after the grass returns to its hush and the stones cool beneath your feet. You wait because endings don't happen all at once. They unspool slowly across the body. The tar pit is a mirror now. Not a surface. A portal. A page. It reflects nothing you can see, only what you feel. It no longer needs to bubble or breathe. It has been witnessed. That's enough. You step closer one final time. No bones rise. No blade returns. No ghost stirs. But you can feel them all. The orphan's loop now resting in the dust. The bone circle half buried beneath moss. The feather that never decayed because it never belonged to time. The moth's spiral still warm against your palm. You look up. The sky is softer now. The kind of soft that comes before a snowstorm or after a birth, thick with pause, pregnant with nothing. You whisper your name, not to be remembered, just to make a sound. The tar doesn't answer, because it already knows you. And you feel something in your chest, a slow spreading warmth, not heat, not light, just understanding. You walk the rim one last time, clockwise. 17 stones, 5 feathers, 1 mark on your hand. And with every step, the world gets quieter. By the time you complete the circle, you're not sure you ever moved at all. One last fact, some tar pits are no longer active. They're hardened, sealed, forgotten beneath modern cities and sidewalks. But if you dig, if you listen, they're still down there. Waiting, storing, remembering. You kneel. Place your hand flat to the ground, not in prayer, in respect. The spiral flares once beneath your skin, then fades. You rise, dust off your knees, and turn toward the dark. No path, no light. But you walk anyway, because now you know. The tar doesn't trap the past. It sings it back. And tonight you sang along. You began in silence, arriving at a pit that shouldn't breathe but does. A pool of black that watched without blinking, exhaling scents that should not exist. Around you, mammoths gathered not by mistake, but with purpose, circling, humming, waiting. As you stayed, the tar sang. It lured you with memory of orphaned calves that traced invisible maps of birds that fell like ash of bones, that stood upright even in death. You were offered visions. A blade, a feather, a reflection that didn't match your face. The tar wasn't a trap. It was a voice. You heard mammoths speak in notes too low for human ears. You smelled memories that belonged to creatures long vanished. You saw moths rise and vanish into skies that no longer held stars. And at the center of it all, a question unspoken but pulsing beneath every bubble. Do you remember what we left here for you? And you did. You remembered not through facts but through presence, through silence, through shape. You sang back. And the tar answered not with revelation but with closure. The herd returned. The orphan rested. The blade was returned. And the pit full of stories went still. Not ended, just quiet. Because some memories don't fade. They wait. And tonight you waited with them.